Welcome back to the Andrew and Ian Show. I'm Andrew Serwick here again with Ian. Hi, Ian. Uh, Football season is finally officially over. Uh, we're on to basically just baseball and basketball and hockey for the time being. Um, but yeah, it is officially the end of football season. How you doing this evening, man?
Not too bad. Could do with without the cold and the snow, but it's not snowing as of last I checked, so doing a little better.
Yeah, definitely. Cold. It's gonna be definitely snowing this weekend down here in Indy. Um, so that's fun. And then it's supposed to be bitter cold all next week, so that's double fun. Um, but let's get right into it with the Super Bowl. Um, Eagles are your Super Bowl champions. They win this game 40-22 in a blowout, and honestly, the score is a hell of a lot closer than that game ever was. Um, Chiefs getting most of their points in garbage time when they were down, 40-6. And then they got their two touchdowns inside of 3 minutes to go. So um, yeah, this game was done and over with, and it was a really good game from Philly. Obviously, they came in with the number one defense um, in the league, and they had been all year the best defense. And they got to Mahomes multiple times. They sacked him multiple times. They put him under a ton of pressure. He was never comfortable in the pocket. Hell, he couldn't even get comfortable outside of the pocket. And what's crazy about it too is the Eagles only blitzed 3 times in that entire game. And they were creating so much pressure with just a four-man rush. And then the offense blew up. Jalen Hurts had a really had probably his best game all year, to be honest with you. Statistically, 17 for 22, 221 yards and 2 touchdowns. Um, the Chiefs, however, they did a really good job of shutting down Saquon Barkley. He did not have a lot of rushing yards. In fact, Jalen Hurts led the team in rushing because it was just completely shut down the run game by Kansas City, and yeah, man, the Eagles, they are your champions.
Yeah, no three-peat, right? I mean, something that a lot of people, I meaning Kansas City fans, wanted to see, but the Eagles, up 34 nothing at one point, right? This game's all but over. Uh, I mean, barring a crazy comeback like we saw with the Patriots against the Falcons, the good old 28-3, and it didn't happen. And like you said, this game was not as close as the score suggests. Patrick Mahomes, you threw your first touchdown pass after they gave Nick Sirianni the Gatorade bath for winning the game. Talk about a garbage time TD. Just not a good game from Kansas City whatsoever. You're down 24 nothing at halftime, and after the first drive for the Eagles, where AJ Brown was called for offensive pass interference, you thought, "Oh boy, this is how the game is gonna go, right?" And Philly put it to a point where the refs couldn't interfere. Then, if that's how you want to put it, that's how you want to put it. But at the end of the day, Philly was the better team here, and Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, they get a ring for it. And Jalen Hurts, for all the naysayers, and I was one of them. I didn't think that he would be able to beat a team, especially with a defense like the Chiefs, and he did it. He beat him in the air. He beat him with his legs. You said he was the leading rusher for Philadelphia over Saquon Barkley. He was your Super Bowl MVP for a reason, and he proved that he can get that job done.
Yeah, he really did prove that he can get the job done. Yeah. Jalen Hurts 72 total yards rushing. Saquon Barkley 57 on 25 carries. The Chiefs all credit where it's due. They did a great job of containing Saquon Barkley, and we talked about it last Thursday. If the Chiefs wanted to win this game, they needed to shut down Saquon. But little did they know that Jalen Hurts had that dog in him, man. Like, he put the team on his shoulders, and he had some beautiful passes. Um, yeah, I mean, Devontae Smith had a hell of a game. A.J. Brown had a hell of a game. Um, so I mean, it was wild. But 6 sacks from this Philly defense. Again, only blitzing 3 times in the entire game. And they were able to get 6 sacks on Patrick Mahomes, and it's hard to it is very hard to sack Patrick Mahomes, and the fact that you got 6 sacks on him tells you just how good that Philly defensive line was. And I'm just saying, Lions, you want to win a Super Bowl, look at what Philly just did defensively, and that's all I'm saying.
Also, look at how they did it. They drafted those players. They didn't pick any of them up. I mean, granted, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, sure you could argue that, or Darius Slay, but still. Darius Slay's old. C.J. Gardner-Johnson played for Philly before that. But most of their picks, especially on that D-line, Jalen Carter, drafted. Hell of a fucking pick. I mean, even their DBs, Quinion Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, both drafted.
Oh, and let's not forget about Cooper DeJean. He had a pick
The white
six.
boy DB who got a pick
Six
and
off of
back
Patrick
after.
Mahomes. The white DB is coming back.
It's back whether you like
It's
it or not. But
whether yeah, exactly. And that's the thing though. Is Cooper DeJean had a great game, and I believe that was his birthday too, which is insane.
both him and Saquon.
They both had birthdays. And Cooper DeJean got a pick six, which is, I mean, that's insane. I mean, he really had such a great game. Patrick Mahomes, man, I mean, he did not look good at all. He fumbled. It was a strip sack, but it still counts as a fumble. And he threw those 2 picks. Obviously, the one being a pick six. Sacked 6 times. He had a QBR of 11.4. That is absolutely terrible. His passer rating was a 95.4, which is also just terrible. So, I mean, again, this game was never as close as 18 points would have suggested. Again, 8 minutes left in the game, and it's 40-6. And then the Chiefs get their second touchdown of the game with just under 3 minutes to go. Again, this Philadelphia team, they did everything right, and they prove yet again that defense wins championships, and that'll never ever change. So yeah, that wraps up your NFL football season right there. We'll obviously get back into it once free agency opens up here in a couple weeks. And obviously we have the draft coming up in April as well, so we'll definitely be looking forward to that. But we got some more MLB news, so Ian, I'm going to let you lead it.
Yeah, indeed we do. The Alex Bregman bullshittery, it's over, finally. He made his decision. He's going to Boston. So despite all the reports that he was down to Detroit and Chicago, he decided he is in fact going to Boston. So let's pull up these details. So it's a 3-year deal, $120 million deferred contract. So it's roughly $40 million a year, but that's deferred money. Comparing that to a deal that Detroit offered him, which was 6 years, $171 million, it makes you wonder. He didn't really want to come to Detroit, did he? I mean, that's money right there. That's the closest he got to that 200 mil and that 7-year plus deal. He didn't want to do it.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me how he said he wants 200 mil, he wants 7+ years, and nobody was going to give it to him. I mean, he had to be out of his mind to fucking think anyone would give him that sort of money. But The Tigers came close to him. They offered him 6 years at 171.5 million, and he declined it for 3 years with opt outs, deferred money. What 120 million was
Yep.
it? In its deferred money. So I mean, obviously, it wasn't the yearly income that he wanted. That was the issue because the Tigers uh, you know, offered it straight up every year instead of deferring it like the Red Sox are. So I, it doesn't make sense to me. Like none of this makes sense to me.
I mean, it doesn't really either. I mean, at the end of the day, all the reports saying, he's going to either Detroit or Chicago. It could just be smoke and mirrors being played. But I remember back, a couple months ago, people were saying the deal for Bregman to Boston was all but done, and this wasn't even going to be a competition. And then all of a sudden, things just stopped. So I think this was that deal was said and done back whenever they had that rumor. They just decided to play the long game, and it might be Alex Bregman who decided to play it, or it might be his agent who decided to play the game. But they had that deal with Boston pretty much all but signed, waiting to see if A, Chicago, or B, Detroit would cave and give them what they wanted, and neither team was willing to go that far.
Yeah, neither team was really willing to go that far. But at the end of the day, um, you know, it just is what it is at this point. And the Tigers, you better pray. That's all I'm saying because you're gonna have some. It's gonna be a tough year. I think having a guy like Bregman was a instant upgrade in your batting lineup, but now you gotta roll out Matt fucking Vierling out there, who's a great defender, but offensively he's not a very good batter, and I mean that in the most disrespectful way possible because he's just not a good batter. Um, it would have been a great upgrade either way. Both defensively, not so much. I mean, I would say it's definitely an upgrade, but not a huge upgrade. But in the batting lineup, having Bregman there would have been a huge addition. So, and oh, by the way, Alex Cobb's gonna miss like the first month of the season. So there goes that starting rotation already downhill for the Tigers as well.
Yeah, well, that's what you got. Jack Flaherty and Sawyer Gibson Long coming back from injury. Potentially Casey Mize. You have Cater Montero. Maybe Brant Herter from the bullpen. I mean, hope to God you don't see
And he,
Kenta Maeda coming out.
I hope to God we don't see him. Jackson Jobe, he's a wild card. You know,
He could be starting.
he
He could
he
be coming out of the bullpen. He
the
could be a closer.
a report came out today. He added two new pitches this offseason. He added a splitter and a curveball this offseason, so that tells me he's gonna be more than just a guy coming out of the bullpen when you add two pitches over the winter. Um, so
It's
he,
a big
he's
addition.
yeah, especially when you're adding, you know, two, two different pitches. You know, you're adding a sinker. Um, I mean, it's another thing with velo that's got some movement, and obviously you're adding in a curveball. That tells me that yeah, you're definitely trying to be a not just a piece that comes in or an opener. Like you're gonna be a full blown starter, like your Flaherty's and your Scoobles.
Yeah, and I mean, he's going to get that chance in spring training. He might not start the year up with the team, uh, barring, the godlike spring, but he might just be sitting and chilling in Toronto for a little bit until, or not Toronto, Toledo for a little bit, and just wait until someone comes up. And if not, like I said, down the stretch, he's coming back up and being a bullpen arm like he was for the playoff run last year. But I think he has a case, especially if they don't pull Brant Herter as a potential starter from that bullpen and they leave him as they're going to have him be a long reliever in a bullpen day sort of situation. The Tigers, they have a lot of pitching, and that's one of their strengths, not only in they have these good prospects and they have these good players there already. They have Chris Fetter, and outside of Kenta Maeda, Chris Fetter makes it better.
As a Detroit area native, you'll understand this joke. Fetter made. That's all I'm gonna say.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
But
that's a
it's just, like if you, better made chips, if you ever see them, it's very rare to see them outside of Michigan. But if you ever see them, they're the best potato chips you're ever gonna have in your entire life. Hey, sponsor us. But no, it's Federer makes them better, and I'm telling you, man, we got to pay him like manager money to keep him because like I do not want to lose that man because of what he's able to do and just how he makes any pitcher. I mean, look at these guys like that we were pulling up from Toledo last year. These guys were throwing, you know, 7 point something ERA, 5 point something ERA down in Toledo. They come up uh, to the majors, and Federer's got them throwing, you know, sub 2.0 ERA. Like it's insane what this man is able to do. So yeah, they just need to keep it up with him. So anything else MLB wise you want to talk about before we move on here?
no, not really. It's really kicking off the start of spring training. I think the Cubs and Dodgers have reported already because they have an earlier game in international. But other than that, camp is just right around the corner, and I think the Tigers are all reporting by Saturday for a team workout. So baseball season is going to be here before we know it.
Yeah, it's rolling up, and it's rolling up fast on us too. Um, and yeah, they uh, and yep, I know pitchers and catchers are reporting for pretty much every team within the next week and a half. So um, yeah, it'll be very very interesting. Uh, Now, moving on, NHL, obviously, they're in break right now, and it's for the Four Nations Faceoff. They aren't doing an All-Star game this year. This is kind of taking place of the All-Star game. Uh, Hold on. Okay. So, yeah, they're both. This is taking place of the All-Star game, which I think is great. Fans hate the All-Star game. It's pretty useless. I mean, no one takes it seriously anymore. They keep trying to come up with ways to make it more entertaining, but realistically, no one cares. The fans don't care. The players really don't care. I mean, Kucherov last year said it himself. We don't really care. We just see it as a bunch of we just see it as a reason for a bunch of us to get together and get fucking drunk together for a couple weeks. That's literally what the players see it as. The All Star game. Um, but you got this Four Nations face off, and it's. I mean, these are legitimate games being played. I mean, these are teams. You have Canada, Sweden, Finland, and the USA going at it. And it's basically a round robin who could score some points, and then the top two will end up playing each other in a championship game to settle it all out. It's a shame that we have Finland instead of Russia. In this because the Four Nations face-off is something that's, I mean, it hadn't been done in years. And it was always Sweden, Canada, Russia, and the USA. But obviously, for political reasons, there's no Russia, which it just doesn't feel right. And there's a lot of NHL fans and just hockey fans in general, that even say it just doesn't feel right without having the Russian players out there in this tournament. But anyways, last night Wednesday, it kicked it off. We had Sweden versus Canada. Canada won that one in overtime 4-3. Crosby had a hell of a game, as you would expect him to, along with Mitch Marner. These all it's this is like the true definition of all-star lineup. These teams, I mean, it's insane. Um, you know, you got a ton of really, really talented players on all these teams, and it is stacked like stacked could be. USA and Finland, they are playing right now. Actually, the U.S. just scored a couple minutes ago by Matt Boldy to make it 2-1 USA. And we have 5 seconds left in the second period right now. About to go into a face-off here, but this is a I don't want to call it a tournament because it's not really a tournament. But it is at the same time. But this is a very, very interesting thing. And again, I like it too because it is an all-star game, and you have actual legitimate games being taken seriously by these players because they want to win for their country. They see it almost as they do the Olympics. These players want to play in the Olympics every single year, and now the NHL's allowing it again, and with the current CBA, they're allowing it for the next few years. But I like this. It makes, yes, you don't get the cool events like you do at the All-Star Game, but you actually get a meaningful amount of games, and they're really good games too.
I mean, you said it. These are all-star lineups if you've ever seen them. I mean, you have players. I mean, just looking and glancing closely, like on Canada, you got Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon, Brad Marchand, Mitch Marner, Connor McDavid, Braden Point, Mark Stone. That's just on offense for Canada. Like, talk about an all-star lineup. Ridiculous, crazy talent all across the board. I mean, and to win 4-3. So Sweden, to counter that, you have players like Gus Nyquist, a former Red Wing, Lucas Raymond, a current Red Wing, Philip Forsberg, longtime Predator, who's one of the better players in the NHL. William Nylander, really good player for the Leafs. So you have all of these talented players just in that one game. Like you said, the U.S. is up 2-1 on Finland, and talent is there. I mean, Austin Matthews, Connor Hellebuck in net for the U.S. is really fucking strong. I mean, not just in the NHL, but across the board, one of the best goalies. And they're countering with players like, for Finland, you have like Alexander Barkov, one of the best players for Florida and in the league, and have a goalie like Jussi Saros. There's talent everywhere, and I'm not going to go through like every individual player on every team. That would take forever. Just talent, every single position is ridiculous, and it's better than the All-Star Game because none of these players were voted by the fans. It wasn't a popularity contest. Players weren't getting snubbed because players like this person better than the other. These are some of the best hockey players in the world playing for their country, and you said it. It's like the Olympics.
It really, really is. And again, the coaches for these teams picked the players themselves that are on the team. So it's not like you said. There's no fan vote. There's no this team's gonna send this player. Like, it is whoever the coaches are for each country, they picked the players themselves. They handpicked them. I'm just gonna run through you real quick. What we have for tonight's lines just for Team USA. Your top line is Jake Gensel, Austin Matthews, and Jack Hughes. That's your top line. And then you have Kyle Connor, Jack Eichel, and Matthew Tkachuk on your second line. And then Brady Tkachuk, JT Miller, Matt Boldy, that's your third line, and then Brock Nelson, Vincent Trocheck, and Dylan Larkin. That is your fucking fourth line. That is a stacked fucking roster, and you see this on every single. Well, maybe not so much Finland's, but for Sweden and Canada and the USA, I mean, these rosters are stacked, man. It
A lot
is
of top line guys
like
not on the top line.
you have a literal bunch of line one and line two guys up and down these rosters, man. It is insane to see. Finland, yes, they have a strong roster, but it ain't nearly as strong as what Canada, the U.S., or Sweden has, for that matter. But yeah, so that's gonna wrap us up here for tonight, guys. Obviously, not a whole lot to talk about going on right now. It's not a whole lot going on in the NBA as of right now. Especially now that the trade deadline for the NBA has come and gone. The NHL, we're still about a month out, a little bit less than a month now, out from the trade deadline there. So we're going to start seeing some trades happen, especially after this Four Nations break in the next couple of weeks. But next Thursday, we're going to give you basically an update on everything going on with the Four Nations, anything that we have MLB wise that's worthy of news. We'll talk about it. Same thing with the NBA, and NFL free agency is also set to start soon. So, we have a lot to talk about, but not enough to where it warrants us having 2 episodes a week again. But when we get there, we'll definitely get there. But anyways, guys, rate, review, subscribe, help us out. Let us know what you guys want to see more of. Follow us on Twitter or X, whatever the fuck you want to call it, at the Andrew and Ian Show. Check out our YouTube page, of course, as well, and we'll keep on just growing this thing, guys. Thank you guys again so much for listening, and we will see you guys next Thursday.